Hey guys, did you ever want to try something that is just distinctively Florida? Or what about the taste of Florida, like the true essence of Florida in a drink? Then you need to try black coral rum. It's like capturing the Sunshine State in a glass. But black coral rum just isn't any rum. It's not your average rum. It's actually a celebration of Florida's vibrant culture and history. So with each sip, you're going to be transported back to orange groves, swaying palm trees, and it's going to be as smooth as the sand beneath your feet, whether you're drinking the white rum, the spiced rum, or the black rum. But what really makes this rum special? That's the dedication of the locals who craft it. It's made by those who share a deep love of Florida and only use in Florida ingredients. So, if you're looking for something that is distinctly Florida, then look no further than black coral rum. Where do you find black coral rum, you ask? You're going to find it at their distillery in West Palm Beach. Their distillery is Steel Tie Spirits. Can't make it to West Palm? That's okay. Check out their website, steeltiespirits.com. And trust me, you're going to sip on this and you're going to think nothing but Florida. Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. How is everybody this week? I am super excited this week because I have a special guest. His name is Bob Gonzalez. He is a Florida author. He talks about fishing, sports, and life in Florida on this podcast today. His book is A Flicker in the Water. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's really cool. It's all about fishing, and it's got some really good tips and tricks about fishing, especially in the waters off of Florida. So, I am excited for this episode, and thank you always for listening. I appreciate it. Thanks for checking out the social media pages, doing the weekly Wednesday polls and questions on Instagram and Facebook. As always, you guys are simply amazing. All right, now on to the interview. All right, I have with me Bob Gonzalez today. So Bob, say hi.
Hi, Jody. Hello, everyone.
So tell me about yourself. How did you end up in Florida? What made you want to write books? Just tell me anything and everything. I'm ready to hear it.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, near the Pocono Mountains, and I used to fish in New Jersey in summer times for bluefish, and in wintertime for cod. But that was only once in a while. It wasn't every day or every week or anything. It was just a couple times a year. Because in Pennsylvania, white-tailed deer was the sport of choice.
Really? I mean,
so
I guess...
used to do a lot of deer, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, like, you have winters up there, and so you can't fish all the time, and so you have to do other things. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There is a lot of ice fishing and stuff, though. I did some ice fishing in the freshwater lakes, which is a lot of fun, too. I enjoyed that. You dig a little hole in the ice, and you put your line down, and you wait for the flag to raise up, and that's when you know you have a fish.
No, that's just too cold. Anything with involving ice that's not in a drink, I'm going to pass on.
Okay, so I used to be a college baseball player, and I used to come to Florida, for spring training every year. And one of those years I said, you know what? I'm tired of going back to that 50-degree weather where the ball gets stuck in the mud. So I came down here, and I made it, turned it into a permanent endeavor. And it was down here. I opened up a small business, a little pretzel shop.
Aww.
And and I started fishing a lot because Destin, which is on the northern Gulf Coast of Florida, is known as the world's luckiest fishing village.
I actually used to live in Fort Walton. So
I know. I remember you saying that. Yeah. So you're familiar with the area. That's great.
And it's good fishing. Really good. You're not wrong. That's a nice area to fish, and the water's so clear. And I totally see why you fished every day.
Yeah. I wrote in the book, and it's true. The first time I went over the Destin Bridge, I was headed from Destin to Fort Walton.
Okay.
And I looked out over that Gulf, and it was in February, and the reflection of the white snow and the blue water, and I thought to myself, this is what Christopher Columbus must have felt like when he discovered the New World, man.
Right?
Because it was incredible.
Right, and the water over there is so... although, I'm glad you looked at the one side and not at Crab Island. Crab Island just kills me. Gosh, it kills me when I hear about Crab Island. And I never went to that. I drove over that bridge and saw people, and I'm just like, ooh, I don't think I could handle y'all, you know?
I know, yeah, and it's more crowded now than ever.
Right? No,
You had a
thanks.
couple hammerhead sharks in it earlier this year. I don't know if you got to see that.
I mean, I did. I saw that there were sharks. I didn't realize that they got into crab, which, I mean, it connects, so that doesn't surprise me. But I can only imagine either people are freaking out or they're too drunk to care. That's the spectrum of Crab Island. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so.
Cool.
I began to fish here all the time, and after like 15 years, I thought I had a good collection of stories I thought people would enjoy and learn things from. And this is what the cover of the book looks like.
A Flicker in the Water. I love it. I've been reading about your book. I don't have my copy yet. I need to get one. I know I'm a little bit behind. But it looks very interesting. Like, it's so what inspired you to write that? Just the stories you had, or you always wanted to be a writer, or how did you get into writing a book?
Well, when I was in school, some of the professors told me that I wrote really well, and I never took it seriously, you know. And it was only years later, you know, I felt that I just had a lot of stories I thought people could enjoy and learn a few things from. And I actually learned a few things too while I was writing the book. There's a lot of stuff in there I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was your what was the biggest thing to overcome about writing a book? Because I know everybody, like even myself, I want to write a book one day, but was it hard to get started? Was it hard to piece it together? What was your biggest thing to overcome to write that book?
The hardest thing for me was just the persistence in getting it out there and the editing and stuff like that. A book like mine, which is about 150 pages, it took about a year to do.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be right. I didn't want to just put something out there just to put it out there. So I wanted to make sure it was really good and the way I wanted it. So I took my time with it, but I'm glad I did.
Did you self-publish, or did you actually have like an editor and a publisher and things like that?
I went through a company called Mindster Media.
Okay.
And they handle they have different packages, but for my particular package, they did everything. After I wrote it, they sat down with me and I edited it, but I retained full creative control.
Good.
And a lot of traditional publishing, you don't. You know, once you sign over the book, you don't retain the control of it. You don't even get you get like a 10 or 8% royalty. With Mindster, you get 100%.
Oh, that's okay. So that's worth it. That's. Yeah. I know that sounds really strange, but that's also kind of like, even with my podcast, I don't want to do certain sponsors because I don't want you to feel like you have any control over my podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's really great that you did find a publisher and it's your book, all totally about you. So that's really cool.
One thing that really appealed to me too was the Mariel Hemingway connection.
How did you get that? That is really awesome. How did you manage that one?
Yeah, she wrote the foreword for my book. If you're a fan of Ernest, her grandfather, you know, from the Old Man.
Oh, no, I am. I love
Mariel
Ernest Hemingway. That's why I'm like, how did you do this?
Yeah, yeah. Mindster works with her. If they put the manuscripts, you know, they give them to her, and if she likes them, she'll write the foreword for you. And that's what she did for mine. And it really meant a lot to me when she said my book spoke to her with a deep sense of appreciation. That meant a lot.
That's really, I saw that her forward and I was like, I have to ask him how he did that. Like, did you run into her in Key West or did you just, no, that's really, really cool. So you're obviously not in the Panhandle anymore. You're in South Florida, correct?
No, right now I'm in the Panhandle.
You are in the Panhandle. Okay.
Yeah, I'm speaking to you from the Depton Harbor.
Okay, I'm a little jealous because I'm speaking to you from the east coast of Florida where it's 90,000 degrees and never going to get any cooler. Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, so you split your time between Destin and South Florida? Yeah,
because my parents have a house in Naples, so I visit them a couple of times a year.
I mean, that's important. I understand that. I go see my mom in Tennessee. I get it. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer Destin or do you prefer Naples?
You know, in wintertime, maybe Naples, because it's cooler there.
Yes.
And then in the summer, here,
Well, how about, tell me about the fishing differences. How does the fishing compare in Destin to the fishing in Naples?
Oh.
That bad, huh? No, tell me. Seriously, tell me the differences. Tell me what you like about fishing in Destin and what you like about fishing in Naples.
Okay, there's diagrams in the book. When I point that out in the book. In Naples, there's not much offshore fishing because the water's very deep.
Yeah.
You have to run off about 100 miles before you have any drops. And for deep water, you could be 100 miles offshore in Naples and still be in 60 feet of water. Although,
are you serious? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's a cool diagram in the book that shows that.
Gonna have to find that.
Shows
Yep.
the bottom contour of the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Okay.
The state record yellowtail snapper though was caught from Naples, about 100 miles offshore.
Okay.
It's a 11.4-pound yellowtail snapper. They call them flags, big ones like that.
That's pretty good. The biggest thing I've ever caught is a 6-pound tilapia. I was happy, and that was the end of my day. So I can't say anything.
Yeah. So in Destin,
cool.
The water gets deep right away.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So deep water usually brings your offshore pelagic fish, meaning the fish that travel a lot. Your wahoos, your mahi-mahis, your dolphin fish, marlin, that sort of thing. Here we get a lot of amberjacks, a lot of snappers.
Yep.
That sort of thing. So the deep water and the currents that flow through the Gulf, they bring a lot of bait with them.
Yes.
So that's what makes Destin really good.
No,
and the clarity of the water too.
That's some beautiful water. And I will say, living up in the Panhandle, I did see a lot more wildlife. You always saw, different kinds of fish. If you especially went to the Okaloosa Pier, and you look down, you could see tons of different kind of fish. You could see sea turtles. You could see everything. But then you go, so I've lived in Clearwater. You go to the Clearwater Pier, you might see a dolphin. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I understand what you're saying about the depth of the water and everything. Now, do you charter a boat? Do you just fish off the pier? What's your favorite fishing excursion?
Well, I used to have my own boat. In fact, we named it the Twister. And to talk about the adventures we had on the Twister.
I like it.
I sold the boat though a few years ago, but now when I go with friends or I charter a boat. I'm going on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're supposed to catch some snappers on Saturday. With that, it's always fun.
Nice. Tell me your favorite fishing story of all time. It doesn't even have to be in the book. Just what is your absolute favorite fishing story?
My favorite story? Oh, wow. Well, all right. When I was a kid, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 11 years old, I was in Key Largo, and we were fishing. You could still see land. It wasn't that far offshore, and we had 4 people on the boat, 3 adults and me. And I was the only one who caught any fish.
Did you really? I bet they were mad.
4 red snappers. Yeah.
Now, do you ever go to the Keys to go fishing a lot? I know that I used to go scuba diving in the Keys and snorkeling, and you could always see a ton of fish. Do you ever go down there just to go fishing, or is that just kind of a every now and then kind of thing?
I love the Keys. I've always loved the Keys. I haven't been there in a few years, but I used to go there and fish, regularly. Isla Mirada is great.
Yes.
I caught a 40-pound mahi one time in Isla Mirada.
Good Lord.
And
okay.
Yeah, and Key West is really good too. The Hemingway Days tournament in Key West every year that they have. That's a lot of fun too.
I've seen that in person. I admire fishermen. You have to have a ton of patience. I do have a question. I was looking on your facts on your website because I wanted to know exactly who I was talking to. Is it true that fish or sharks can hear for miles?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they have superior senses in almost every way. Most fish cannot see very well, but they can smell and they can hear and they can pick up vibrations too in the water.
Okay.
That's how they find their prey a lot of times. They don't see them, but they feel them.
Okay. So is that, I guess that's why they tell you when you're going fishing, you have to be quiet.
Yeah.
Probably why I was not good at fishing. Nope. So do you have any advice for people who want to get into fishing? Say you've just moved to Florida or you just decided that fishing is a thing you want to try. What advice would you give someone to get started in fishing to fall in love with it like you have?
Well, I would start in shallow water and work your way up into the deeper water. And you got to remember, the fish aren't going to bite every time. It takes a lot of persistence and a lot of dedication. But usually, and I talk about this in the book, usually if you're persistent and you learn how the fish think and behave and this and that, you'll usually, more times than not, catch your share.
Okay. All right. So patience is definitely key. Do you prefer a certain kind of bait over another or anything like that? Can you share your secrets? If you don't want to share your secrets, I get it.
I'll share a few of them. Live bait is usually, if you can get good live bait, it's usually the best.
Okay.
The live bait gives off a vibration and a scent in the water that artificial bait cannot.
Okay.
So usually live bait is the way to go, but it doesn't always work either. I've seen fish turn away from live bait before.
Oh.
So you have to try different things. Sometimes casting a dead bait or sometimes a lure, that kind of thing will work.
I mean, okay, so
lure, you drag.
I gotcha. Now, all right, so I'll share a fishing story with you, and you can laugh at me when I'm done. So we go down to Wauchula, and there's estuaries off the Peace River. So, you know, the property we stay on has a little pond, mini lake that has an estuary from the Peace River, so it feeds into it, and there's fish. You know, we've seen bass in there, we've seen tilapia, we've seen bluegill. And so I was fishing with my uncle, and he said, because he was like, do you even have bait on your line anymore? And I was like, I don't care. I was going to fish to hang out with him and drink beer. I wasn't, you know, it was a cane pole. I wasn't expecting to catch anything to begin with. And so I said, no, I'll be fine. And he's like, let me put bait on it. And I'm like, I really am not worried about it. It's fine. It's fine. Well, I would say a minute later, you know how if you fish with a cane pole, you feel it tug on it. So I feel a tug, and I'm like, something ate the rest of my bait. Let me pull my line up. Well, when I did, I caught a bluegill. And my uncle looks at me and goes, did you just catch fish without bait? And I'm like, yes, I did. So it's really strange that sometimes they do just bite, you know? Like, it's not necessarily, it is partially skill, and I think it is partially, in my case, it was complete luck. Like, I was not even trying. I didn't care. Do you have experiences like that where you just kind of like whatever happens and you end up catching something?
Oh yeah, sometimes sometimes you're looking for another kind of fish, and one that you don't want will come and bite. Sometimes that happens too.
Yeah, I understand that. That's how I caught a bass in that same little. My uncle was actually casting for bass, and I'm on my cane pole, and I'm like, "Hey, this is a weird looking fish," and he's like, "You just caught a bass," and I'm like, "Okay, wasn't even trying." Thanks. Now, what's the biggest fish you've caught? And you can tell fisherman tales, and you can exaggerate and tell me how big it was. But what's the biggest one you've actually caught?
Well, probably a blue marlin or a swordfish. 300-400 pounds.
Good Lord! Now, are those as mean as they say they are? Swordfish.
Swordfish are a little strange. They are arch enemies of mako sharks, so they're always a cat and mouse game between the two of them.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And, they can be temperamental, yeah, for sure.
Okay, because I've always seen, like, you see those videos where the swordfish or the marlin, like, tries to stab somebody on board, and I'm like, so I hope I never catch one of those. Have you ever, are they really like that? Like, are they mean?
Well, only if they feel threatened.
Okay, that makes sense.
The stabbing action is something as a self-defense. They're not aggressors, but if they feel like, they need to defend themselves, they will use their swords for sure. I mean,
that sounds like every animal out there, so that makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of cool. 400 pounds. How long did it take you to reel that in?
Several hours.
So was it one of those you had to, like, follow it through the water or just wait and just slowly get it? Like, how did that...
Usually what you do is when you're catching a marlin or a swordfish, a marlin mostly is you troll. You're dragging the lure through the water, usually on the surface.
Okay.
And they'll bite. And when they bite, they make these great runs. So you have to back down on the fish as he's running.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, you can lose all your line. So it's a give and take. It could take several hours, but
okay.
And you see them jump out of the water and do all kinds of flips and stuff. It's really an amazing sight.
I mean, that's kind of impressive. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been deep sea fishing in a long time, and I would love to, but at the same time, if I didn't catch anything in like an hour, I'd be like, well, this is not for me. That whole patience thing is not my virtue. What about sharks? Do you catch a lot of sharks?
We've caught a few. I talk about a story in the book where one time we were fishing around a shrimp boat, and there were fish of all kinds around there. And we thought we had a tuna actually, and it was in the middle of the summer hot sun, 90-degree day, and we took like 2 hours to reel this thing we thought was a tuna, and it turns out to be a bull shark.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it was a huge bull shark too, so we cut the line and let him go.
I was going to say, you just let that one go, didn't you? There's no bringing that in the boat and dealing with that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that the craziest fishing story you have?
The title was inspired by a fish that we were fishing, the Louisiana oil rigs.
Okay.
A lot Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the fishermen from here in Destin go to the oil rigs off of the Louisiana coast.
It's not far. It's only a couple hours, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And they hold a lot of fish, those oil rigs. So we had a tuna. We battled this thing for several hours, and that's how the title was inspired for the book, A Flicker in the Water, because I saw the reflection of the tuna's colors in the water.
Oh, cool.
So it inspired me for the title, yeah.
Well, that's cool. And did you end up catching the tuna? You did get the tuna?
Well, stay tuned. You'll have to...
I got to read the book. Okay, my bad. Yeah. So I'm going to read the book, and then I'm going to message you and be like, I see what happened.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's cool. So, do you plan on writing any more books, or you still getting more fishing stories together, or is that your one and done? Actually, that's your second book, isn't it?
I may add a couple of additions to this book, but I have some material that I wrote way back about baseball.
That'd be cool.
I may do something like that on each of the major league franchises. That might be good.
Now, do you go to spring training since you did play baseball? Do you ever go to the spring training games?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, the Twins and the Red Sox train down there in South Florida near me, so sometimes I go.
I used to. So when we lived in Clearwater, I could go to the Blue Jays or the Phillies, and it just depended on who they were playing that day as to who I wanted to go see.
Yeah.
That is the one nice thing about living in Florida. If you don't want to wait for the actual season to start, you just start going in March.
Yeah. When I was growing up in Pennsylvania, I was a Pittsburgh Pirates fan.
Cool.
But since I've been here to Florida, I like the Rays. I got to say, I like the Rays.
And they've done really well lately.
Yeah.
They're actually, I mean, they had a couple rough years.
Yeah.
But they really have kind of come back. I mean, we would go see, my husband's an Oakland A's fan. Don't judge him for that. And we went to see the Oakland A's play the Rays. And I love baseball, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell you which team I am because you're immediately going to probably stop the Zoom call if I do. But we went and saw
the Yankees fan.
I am a Yankees fan. See, you knew that. I am, actually. And I do see the Yankees when they're in Tampa. And I do go see them when they play everybody around here. I'm not going to lie. They have a really nice... George Steinbrenner Field's not nice. It's weird because it's across from the Rays thing, or the Bucks. But it's nice. You got to go once. But we had gone to see the Rays play the A's. And when I tell you that is the slowest game I have ever seen in my entire life... One inning took 2 hours, and I'm looking at my husband like, man, last time I went to baseball, which was like a month ago, this was a little bit faster.
Yeah. Sometimes the game can be long and drawn out, although the rule changes that they've made this year have sped it up a lot. It's helped, I think. Yeah,
I saw a couple things. I think the games are getting better. I think that... Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know. Yes, I do root for the Rays. Let me go ahead and say that because I am living in Florida. But I think it's great that they're finally doing it. I mean, all the Florida teams are really doing good. The Florida Panthers went to the Stanley Cup, even if they didn't make it. Brady took the Bucks to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So, Florida's doing really well in sports. So it's kind of cool if you're a sports fan to actually be in Florida right now.
How about, I don't know if you read this in the book, but I wrote one line in there comparing it to what Ernest Hemingway said. And listen to this one. In The Old Man and the Sea, he wrote, everything about him was old, except for his eyes, which were the same color as the sea, and were cheerful and undefeated. So I wrote, neither fisherman or fish goes through a full season undefeated unless you're the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
I did see that. I love that. I think that's great. Although, I don't know, Dan Marino was really good. I just wish he had been able to, capture that final Super Bowl thing.
Yeah.
That was, I feel like that would have capped in his entire great career, and then he just never made it. I feel so bad for him. You know what I mean? I'm actually a huge sports fan. Sorry. But no, it's great to talk to you. I'm sorry. Like I said, I apologize when we started that it took so long. But
that's okay. That's fine.
I love the book. I love the fact that you're just writing about fishing. I think that's great. It kind of helps people get into fishing, get to know that Florida's more than just crazy tourist and Florida man. So that's really cool. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Jody. Anytime you want to talk, let me know.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome on this podcast anytime. You just reach out. You can message me. You've got my email or Twitter or whatever. And you just say, hey, I want to talk. And I'll be like, perfect. Let me know when. You know, you're more than welcome. I think I'm sure you have amazing baseball and Florida stories beyond fishing. So you're definitely welcome back anytime.
Oh, yeah.
So,
thanks, Jody. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was my guest, Bob Gonzalez. He is the writer of A Flicker in the Water. He is a renowned fisherman, has some amazing fishing stories. I definitely recommend checking out his book. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it in some local bookstores. He's a really cool local author, and I'm glad I got to talk to him about fishing and baseball and just life in Florida. Thanks for listening today, guys. Don't forget to check out the podcast social media pages, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We are trying YouTube. I say trying because it's trying. But thank you for everything, guys. Thanks for posting the memes. Thanks for the reviews. Thanks for just being you guys and listening each week. Also, shout out to Florida Madcap podcast. I've been talking to Ryan a lot. He is awesome. You need to check out their podcast. I believe they're also on Spotify. Let me look that up. I actually have my computer out right now. It's the one nice thing. Yeah, Florida Madcaps podcast. Definitely check them out. They have a website. I think they're on Buzzsprout, apparently, but you can find them on Apple and Spotify. Huge shout out to them. They're conservationist, and they do recreation, and they, like me, believe that there is more than just beaches and theme parks and crazy people in Florida. So definitely want to give them a shout out and tell you to check out their podcast as well. All right, guys. Don't forget to drink water. It is still hot. It is still hurricane season. Stay prepared. There are things out there in the Atlantic doing their thing, and thankfully they're all shooting north. And yeah, guys, that's been your daily dose of sunshine.